My story would begin as a little girl, and my parents would spend a lot of their time fussing. I mean, they could have been loving instead of fussing, but they weren't. And when I married Tommy, I just decided I didn't want any fussing. So we never did fuss hardly. Now here lately in our old age, we do fuss a little bit, but it's not bad. Okay. Then when I was going from the 6th grade to the 7th grade, that's when junior high would start in the 7th grade. And I went shopping that summer for school clothes, and I bought the prettiest eyelet dress that you ever saw. Well, by the time school started, I had grown so much, that dress was really short. And I was bent over getting a drink of water one day, and my butt was showing, and I didn't know it, but somebody told me. So that's the story of my first day at junior high. And it was an eyelet dress. It was very pretty.
Tell me about the lighthouse.
Oh, the lighthouse. I really don't remember that too much. But the thing I remember about it was I'm still scared of heights.
How old were you?
I was probably about 4, I guess. I'm not sure how old I was. Anyway, my daddy was supposed to be watching me, and it was in the center of the lighthouse. And he climbed up with me, and my mother, said, "Now you watch her, George. Don't let go of her." Well, he didn't, and it wasn't really his fault. Little kids could just get into more stuff. And so once we got up to the top, he looked around and I was gone. I had fallen through the opening of the lighthouse and fell all the way down. And they called the local newspaper and all that, and the story made the big papers because it was quite a story.
Yeah, I think, didn't you say you were laying there and they all thought you were dead, and then you opened your eyes?
Yeah, they did. Well, what happened, I'm sure, looking back, is I knocked the wind out of myself. And that ranks right up there with almost drowning.
I was going to ask about that next, when you fell through the in the lake or the water or something.
Yeah,
babysitting?
it was out in Sanderson, Texas. I think it was Sanderson. And my mother, I have a picture of her schoolhouse with all her little kids. And she paid this girl to help watch me so I could go outside and run around a little bit. Well, her watching me didn't do much good. I was like you, Marcy. I was all legs and wanted to run. So she took me down to this little tank that was iced over. It's real cold, and so that's where I went, down there. And what happened, she told me that she dared me to see if I could walk across this little tank. Well, I couldn't. And I started falling in and falling in up to my, arms. And she was standing there laughing at me. And so she kept saying, "Come over here to the side." So somehow I got to the side. When I did, I grabbed hold of a clump of weeds. And when I went to get myself out, they came out of the dirt. And I went under, and I darn near drowned. And I had another escapade of almost drowning. And that was at Suffolk Wells swimming pool in San Antonio. And it was I was a teenager by then, and these 2 boys got a hold of me and pulled me down and wouldn't let me go. So that was and that's why I'm so afraid of swimming. I don't like to swim. If I could have a pool all to myself, I could swim. But
tell me the story of your mom and your dad, the cowboy and the teacher.
Yeah, the cowboy and the teacher. Okay. My mother was real smart, and she started to school by walking with her sisters to school. And they'd miss her, and my grandmother would say, "Oh, I bet she's going to school with them." So sure enough, they'd look way out down the road, and there I'd be twaddling along behind my sisters.
Your mom would be behind the sisters. Your mom.
Oh,
Right? You're talking about your mom.
yeah. By Bob, you're right. Anyway, they didn't watch me too good anyway. But my mother was an athlete. She swung from trees, and she jumped off of ledges, and she just played outside all the time. Well, when we got down to the school, teachers said, "Well, you can stay if you know how to read," or something like to that effect. And so I got in a chair and started reading. And
Mom. Your mom and your dad story.
okay,
The teacher and the cowboy. You keep.
you gotta have this to start with.
Okay.
Okay. My mother, when they furnished this little town, furnished a place for the teachers to live, and it was called a teacherage. But my mother she didn't really have a choice. There's nowhere else to live. So we rented a room from this woman, and it turned out later she became my Aunt Jimmy. And my mother went and looked out of the window of the I was in the second story, and my mother looked out of that window, and she saw this cowboy. He was in a pen breaking a horse, and then he got thrown off the horse. And when he landed on his back, and if you've ever had the breath knocked out of you, that's what had happened to him. So that was the story of my mother and my daddy's beginning.
When he landed, what happened then? He saw her?
Yeah. And they had organdy. I don't guess the modern girls would know much about organdy, but anyway, it was white organdy curtains. And so she was standing there with those curtains parted and looking out at him. But the curtains were blowing, and so he decided that was an angel. And he told his friends that came over there to help him get up that was the girl he was going to marry. So then he just fell in love instantly, and he walked over to where he had been laying, and kneeled down on his knees and said, "What's your name?" and all this kind of stuff. And the introductions were done. Well, then what happened is they just looked at each other for a long time. And I guess, looking back, that she was in love too. I don't think it was just him. What time is it?
Mom. Okay. You said something about his saddle and...
Well, he was so crazy about her that he didn't want her to get away to some other cowboy there. So he slept by her door at night on his saddle, with his head on his saddle. And that way that nobody else could claim her. And so it wasn't too long they decided to get married. And they kind of eloped.
Mm.
And they went off towards San Antonio. And I had, a couple of years later, I had strep throat. That's when she was out in West Texas, and it almost drowned out there. Anyway, I had strep throat by then because I'd fallen in that icy water and all that stuff. And anyway, they came to a creek that was flooding, but it was still sleety and snowy there. That's a bad part of Texas right there. And so my mother, my daddy said, well, Minnie, what do you think we better do? We've got this baby with us. And she said, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cross that creek. We've got to get her to a hospital. So they did. They crossed the creek and got me to a hospital. And I'd never been to see the doctor. I'd never been in the hospital. And we walked in, and this older doctor came up and put his hand on my forehead. He said, well, I can tell you one thing. You've got very high fever. And it was a matter of having the strep throat. And so they put me in the basement of the first, what's it called? Well, I guess it's just Baptist Hospital. It's still there, I think. But anyway, they put me in there, and I survived.
So that's the story of George and Minneola Dickey.
Yeah.